Hi friends, it's Becky and I am going to be making two sets of jewelry. I think I'm just going to do necklace and earrings for each of these, but I'm going to be doing one set with beads from the Bargain Bead Box Key Lime Pie Bargain Bead Box, and this one is the companion bundle. This is version 1 of the companion bundle. There was a version 2, which my sister got, and she will be unboxing with me tomorrow night for my late night beading with Becky. I'm postponing it one day because hers isn't here yet, but also because I wanted to do this with you today. So why don't we go over a little bit about how it will go. Usually what we do with this is I'll do one that's a stringing tutorial and one that is a beaded chain tutorial. I kind of like changing it up like that with little different formats in the same video. And since so many of you all love to spend a little extra time with me, and I haven't been doing a ton of super long videos lately, we'll go ahead and do this completely real time. So I won't be skipping ahead to, a point in time after I've made all my links or something. We'll just make them all together and we can chat and we can visit. And if you would like to skip past some of the more tedious bits, like if you're like, okay, that's how she's stringing it, now let's get to the end, I will put timestamps in the description below so that you can just click on that little timestamp link and go right forward to putting the necklace together or attaching the findings or something like that, so that you're not, spending all the time with me if you don't want to, but so you can still get the full tutorial. Just skip some of the bits that you don't need if you don't want. But otherwise, we're going to be doing it like that. So I'm going to be using both of these. The tools that I'm going to be using, because I'm going to be doing both beaded chain and stringing, is I am going to be using these 4 tools. These are like some of my essential tools: chain nose pliers, round nose pliers, flush cutters. These are essential for doing any sort of wire working. And then we've got some crimpers. These are magical crimpers, and is my favorite way of doing crimpers, so I am going to be using those. But any crimps will do, right? I'm gonna go ahead and use some 22 gauge wire for my my beaded chain. I'll be making chain links with those. And then for my my strung project, what wire do I want to use for that? Maybe I will go ahead and use this Econoflex. It is a 0.019 inch, and it's this gold color because gold is the color that we're doing with this. This will be absolutely fine for doing that with. So yeah, it's one of those that I got in one of my bead boxes, and I think it'll be a lot of fun to use that. So we will do that. It is, yeah, 49 strands still, and it'll work with my 2x2 crimp tubes, which I like to use with my magical crimper. And we'll make a pair of earrings with these as well, and for that I will be using the 22 gauge wire for both of those. So let me get those 2 out of the way, and let's pick out some beads. Now with this one, I was thinking necklace focal, whether I wanted to use this aventurine pendant, or if I wanted to grab this pendant from the companion bundle. And this is serpentine, and then make my earrings sort of go with it like that. And I think I'm really leaning towards using these. I know I'm sort of mixing them, but you know what? I'm allowed to do that. The companion bundle is meant to be something that accentuates your bargain bead box. And I think I'm going to pull out these like olive green colored beads that we got in our box, because I think they're going to look really great in just kind of a muted green, the softer green. I'm going to pull these out And this will be my strung version. So I'm going to have these guys, the serpentine nuggets as well. So this will carry that same color that we've got here throughout the whole design. So I'm just pulling these guys out. And then these bead caps, these round bead caps, I think are going to go great on these larger 8mm rounds when they're strung. And then we'll just have some little sections of those, but they will be sort of dotted and separated with these spacers. So these are all of the bits and pieces that I'm going to be using for that. I'll grab a, let me see, maybe this one. That'll be a fun, no, it's too big. Let's do just a smaller lobster clasp for that. Yeah, that's a good color, gold. So we'll do a smaller lobster clasp. And that will work for that type, for that one. I was thinking of digging around for some of my my toggle clasps, but I think lobster clasp will work. And then these are just closed rings. That'll be a little ring on the opposite end of the necklace that the lobster clasp can hook onto. So that will be for necklace number 1 or number 2, depending on, and also earrings, depending on which end of it I get to. I think I will need to do something like a bail though for these, and so I'm going to use these for that when we get to that part of the creation and the making. So that's the first one. And then for the second one, let's pick out our beads for that too. I wanted to go ahead and use these ginkgo bits, and I want to, with my earrings, I'm going to use these connectors for some earrings. I think those will be fantastic. And I think I was going to use these great big like sour apple colored guys, and these textured spacers. Can you see them? They'll work really great as a link with these sort of champagne-y AB finishes. So I'm going to have these guys for my necklace. So let me grab them out of here. I'm going to set 2 of these guys aside for earrings. Yeah, we're going to add some extra dangle on those. Yeah. A little bit of extra jangle and dangle. That side, so you've got 2 of those set aside for that. We'll probably use about 16 of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just pull all of them out. I think my limiting factor is going to be these spacers. So however many links I can get with these spacers is however many we're going to do. They are really cool spacers though. These little wind turny guys. Told you they remind me of those little things that they have on roofs that turn with the wind for ventilation. You know what I'm talking about. I don't know what they're actually called. If any of you know what that type of part of a house or a building is called, let me know, because it's just turbine. No, it's not a turbine, is it? No, maybe. I don't know. They're twisty. They seem aerodynamic. I think that's going to be enough of these crystals for that. And then for this one, I think I might make my own clasp. Yeah, I think, no, wait, no, because I've got a little toggle clasp here. Yeah, let's just use this toggle clasp that came in here. It's kind of branchy, stuff like that. So that's what we're going to start with. I'm going to scooch. Which do I start with? Yeah, let's do the stringing first. So I'm going to get these guys all up in this section up here where I can put all of these beads and get them out of the way for now. Because we can get to that in a little bit. All right. Now, like I said, when I started planning this one, or when I started pulling this one out, or just before I did the other one. Here we go. Let's get these guys separated a little bit better. All right. Yes. Okay. So as I said, let's get started. I am going to need to make a bail for these because they are these center drilled, and I'm going to use the 22 gauge wire to do that. Think that what I want to do is take some of this wire and let me just straighten this bit out. Got a little bit of a kink at the end, so I'm just going to snip that. Would be really helpful if I didn't pile my bead boxes on top of my tools. All right, friends. All right, let's do this. Take about 5 to 6 inches of this wire, which I am straightening out right now with my fingers. It also warms up the wire so that it's easier to work with. You can bend it one way and then back the other way, and it works out all of those kinks for you. It's really nice. Right, so I've got my, and this is 22 gauge wire. I don't know if I mentioned that. So I'm going to start with a loop here, or I might I'm finding somewhere around the middle of this. It helps to sort of bend it in a U shape to help find something in the middle. But I want to bend a loop that's about a little bit bigger than the space. There we go. So about there on my pliers, that's where I want to make a loop. Right here. All right, and I'm bringing the wire all the way around so that it meets on that side, just like that. Now right where it meets, right next to where it meets, I should say, I'm gonna just give it a little bend this way with my chain nose pliers. Let's see where I'm grabbing it. So I bent this one that direction, and I'm going to bend this one in the same direction. so that I've got myself a little golf club, basically, with both of those wires together. And then I'm going to go with both of those wires through the hole in this pendant, if it will fit. I might need to straighten these out a little bit more. Honestly, I should have checked to see if 2 of these would fit in the hole before I started. It appears... Nope. That is not going to work for that. Will it work for this one? Are these holes a little bit bigger? They are. Okay. So for this, this is basically what I wanted to do with it. Let's try to get that back wire through here. That was my plan for this one, and then I was going to make just a little loop, a wire wrapped loop around it. But it would have been a better size match for this. That was foiled by the size of the hole. So that was fun. Because this is mostly, I haven't planned this, so if you haven't checked or if you can't tell, I did not plan it, so we're just doing a regular thing. And I think I want to do a fat wrap that comes down around the point of this. So to do that, I'm going to need a lot more wire. This 22 gauge wire. And I may grab some 24 gauge or 26 gauge wire to do a similar wrap style on this to make it consistent as a set. But for this, I've got about, let's see, this is about 12 inches of wire. This is my 22 gauge wire. And again, I'm just straightening this out. What I'm going to want to do is go through here and about an inch or half an inch off of here. I'm going to just bend both ends of this up towards each other. Now the one in back is my long one. I'm going to take my pliers. I've got my thumb against this part right here, and my finger against this one here. I'm just going to take my pliers up a little bit, about ½ centimeter up from the top. Just kind of bend that forward just a little so that I get a indentation there that centers this wire over the center of the stone. And then I can use my thumb to push the front wire back around. This does not need to be a very big loop or a lot of winding and wrapping. I'm just doing a single wrap because I am going to come back down here once I have a loop formed. I'm going to bend this back And I don't need a large loop for this one, since I'm just going to be stringing it on some beading wire. So I'm going to hold the wire near the pointier end of my round nose pliers. See how it bent back, and now I brought it forward. And then what you want to do is rotate your pliers out of the way so that you can keep moving that wire all the way around like that. Now I can take my loop and hold it. And sorry, I had to move that so that I could actually start wrapping without it hitting things or knocking all my beads off of my mat. But then you can just take your wire, start wrapping down over the top of your pendant. There we go. So now I have a nice little wrap there. I am going to snap the end of this here and use my chain nose pliers to try and tuck this end in. I think I might actually need a different set of pliers for this. There they are. These guys, these are my tweezer nose pliers. And they can get into spots that are a little bit of a tighter fit than the chain nose pliers can. Sometimes tuck things into the wires underneath other wires a little bit better. There we go. That's better. All right, so now I'm going to do the same thing with this 26 gauge wire. It's just because of the size of this. The 22 gauge would just be big and chunky and honking on here, but this 26 gauge wire is going to be smaller, and I'm going to do that for the earring bits. Basically the same thing, where we go through front to back. I'm going to bring it up here. Now, because 26 gauge wire is a little bit softer, I don't need my pliers to do that bend forward. And I'm just going to twist instead of wrapping because I can. All right. But yeah, right here, just going to bend that back. And do I need to do it forward? Actually, let's do it to the side for this loop. Sort of building this up because it's so skinny right there. I can go down. And I'm doing a little bit of a messy wrap on this one. And I'm going to just go back up around the middle just to reinforce that. And also have a neater place for hiding the end of my wire, tucking that in. I know, messy wrap, neater place for tucking your wire. I have a little dangle that we can do with that. I think what I want to do is I'll do one earring with y'all, and then I'll do the second one on my own. So I'm going to set that one aside for now so we can get started doing our stringing. And I like to, when I do my stringing, I like to sort of figure out my stringing pattern, and then I will start stringing from the middle out and do one side, and I'll do this off the spool so that I can get to a decent place, a decent stopping point or something, or continue going from there. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is I'm probably going to have one of these guys here, and then let's do some smaller ones right here next to it. So we've got 1, 2, 3 nuggets, another spacer, and whatever I do on one side, I'll do on the other. So let's pick out 3 nuggets for that. And then these bead caps, I'm setting them up into the side because they will be flush against that for one of these. And we've got another spacer. Let's go for about medium-sized nuggets. 1, 2, 3, like that. Got some medium-sized ones over here. 1, 2, 3. And another spacer. And some bead caps. One of these. Another spacer, and maybe something a little bit larger here. 1, 2, 3. Spacer. Let's get some larger guys on this side. Get them lined up. They'll nestle inside themselves. That's why I keep dropping them, to kind of jar them into not nestling. And now let's get some medium. So we went small, medium, sort of large, some more medium ones up here. Got those. And one more, and I think that might end up being long enough for me. I like a shorter necklace, personally. So at this point, I'm going to stop it there and check the length. So this will be one side of the necklace, and then we'll have the other one over here. Let me just move some of these out of the way, and we can start stringing these along. So like I said, it is starting on one end, working my way up the necklace, and I think I'm just going to set that aside so I don't have to have that dangling while I'm doing this. And now I'm just going to start stringing. Now that I've got the order laid out on there. I do love a good tumbled nugget. Also, nuggets are great. Whether they are chicken nuggets or whether they are made out of stones. There we go. Yeah, these bead caps look really nice on these olive colored guys. Yeah, I like to do 1/2, check the length, and then do the other half, and just wait to do any of my crimping until after I know exactly how I want it. Because, you know, what if I change my mind? What if I get halfway through this and I'm like, this isn't working for me, and I decide I want 5 nuggets in a row instead of 3, or I want more olive colored beads or something like that. I can change my mind, and sometimes I do. I think this is really fun. It is nice to have so much greenery in a box. All right. Yeah, I think I'm going to need to make that a little bit longer. And that is totally fine because I have more of each of these beads. Let's see, there's 1, 2. All right, let's do 3 more of those, 3 more of those. And these ones are a little bit smaller, and that's totally fine because they're going to be headed back around the back of the neck. So let's get these guys on. 1, 2, 3. And a spacer. And a couple of bead caps. There's 1 bead cap. And all I'm doing when I'm checking my size, I'm just holding it up to half of my neck. Ah, perfect. All right, so this is exactly the right length. Let's make sure we have enough wire to do some crimping at the end there. And I'm going to use a little bead stopper on that end, and then hold up this wire. Make sure I have enough for crimping here. Snip that, and now I can put this, wind it back up and put it away. then we can put on our pendant right there. Love that. All right, and then we got our small guys. I had already set them up in the order that I wanted them to be over here. My little pebbles. Just gonna move this end of my wire over there so that my stuff is out of the way while I'm stringing. I want to go through the rounded side first. Oh, but first I need one of these guys. That's right. Do it in the right order, Beki. This direction. This will be nice. I do quite like that wrapping job on there. That's very nice. Okay. Once again, I'm dropping them from height to try and force them to separate, because I don't know if you've seen this. You've got like one, maybe two, but if you drop them, they might become three. It's just they nestle. Oh, speaking of nestling, I've just put two of these spacers on at the same bit of wire at the same time. Alright, I am almost done with the stringing portion for this. After we do this necklace, let's do our earring. And then we can switch gears and move on to the second set. First, let's get these guys on here. These are really pretty. Anyway, I am excited to see what's in companion bundle number 2. But we'll find that out tomorrow. Unless you got one and you've already received it, in which case. I know they did have pictures on the site showing you what's in it and a list of all the things. So it's not going to be a surprise to see what's in it. I'm just going to say that. It's not going to be a surprise, but I'm excited to get it out and look at it with my sister, who is going to be joining us from her house because she got her camera set up. So that is going to be a very fun thing for us to do together. All right, I'm actually going to switch over to the other side. And start my crimping. I'm going to put my crimp tube, my wire, put my wire through this loop, put it back on itself, and that wire is going through the crimp and through that spacer. I'm going to keep going so that I have a little bit of wiggle room here. And then I want to make sure that there's space between my bead and the crimp. So I'm just going to use my fingernail and move that aside so that I can do my crimp. All right, so if you haven't used a magical crimper before, you basically just want to center your crimp right here in this little concavity in there. You guys can see it's a little round hole, just a divot taken out of it. And when you have your crimp all centered and you squeeze it, it will crimp just the corners of your crimp tube. You can switch to a different angle and do another squeeze. And then each time you switch your angle, you want to make sure it's centered. A good way to keep it centered is to turn it while it's just a little bit open, and then close it the next time you come around. Oh, hold on, did I grab the wrong crimps? I think I grabbed some bad crimps. Let me grab some proper crimps. These work great on, yeah, these were not the good crimps. Let me show you a crimp that is good and will hold up to this. I had some thinner walled crimps that I had been using as examples when I was talking about using the magical crimper and you know, my tips and tricks and stuff. And I think that I accidentally grabbed 2 of those instead of the good crimps when I was getting ready for this. So I'm just gonna get one of these. Let's put both of these on their sides if I can. For these crimps, they are going everywhere. Okay, so this, I think, was the bad one. Was that the bad one? see. Yeah, that's the one. So like these ones are smoother, and if I can tip it up, get it to stand up for you. Oh, I'm not good at this. It's all right, I'll try harder. You know what will work? Okay, so you can see how thin the wall is on that one. It just crumpled when I was going around and around with it. This crimp is a better crimp, and it has a much thicker wall, a much more solid crimp wall than this one does. So I'm going to take this bad one. These are all good ones that I spilled out. I'm going to stick them over there. I'm going to take this bad one, and I'm just going to smush it with my pliers, because I can, because it's not very strong. And that way I won't be confused and try to use it in my crimping in the future. So, anyway, I'm going to start this again. I have plenty of extra wire on the other end, so all I have to do here, now that I've realized that I'm using a bad wire, is snip this. Remove this bead stopper. Kind of pull some of this wire out a little bit more, which makes this be a little bit shorter, but that's okay because I have plenty for crimping and everything. And now I've got to put my beads back on, which is also fine because that will give me a chance to do that. So that is one of those how to fix a potential mistake sort of things, if that helps. But it might give you an idea of, you know, if you've tried magical crimper but you're not using the right crimps, that could be why, if it isn't working for you. So these are two of the thicker walled ones that I've got out here. Let's get this guy back on here. I thought about just hitting stop and editing that out, but sometimes the little mistakes or the having to correct things can be a valuable thing to leave in your videos, I think. I have never pretended to be perfect at this, ever. Okay, so I've got my crimp, my new good crimp on there. And we're going back through our thing. Make myself a little loop with my wire. Now, proper crimping. Get it all centered. I've got my nice little ravioli there with my corners crimped. Like that. Then at a right degree angle, crimp again. And again. Just keep going around at different angles. Make sure it's centered each time you do. And my second crimp, I'm not going to be up close and personal with it, just because after, do you see how much better that looks? It's nice and rounded. It's very smooth. It's like a little ball of crimp right there. I'm going to take this excess wire right here that's sticking out of that spacer. Snip that off. Now I can do the other side. Scooch this wire along, but I'm also going to curve this so that I am not crimping too tight, and so that the necklace has some movement when I do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on this side, making sure I'm using a good crimp, not one of the really weak-walled ones. Going to go through my lobster clasp and back through the crimp and that spacer. Make sure we've got some movement, and also make sure that there's enough room with my fingernail between those last beads and the crimp so that I can get in there, do some proper crimping. Sometimes if it's not rotating for you the right way, by holding onto the beads, if you're just still doing the same angle after trying to turn the beads, try turning your clasp instead, because the beads might stay, or the wire might stay put while the beads rotate, but if you're rotating your clasp, then it's going to rotate all of that with the wire too. And as well, there's my little tug test for y'all. All right. I'm going to scooch back a little bit so you can see my necklace. Love, love, love that. And now let's do an earring. I think my earring needs to be just a little going to do. I'm gonna make an ear wire, a couple of ear wires real quick. And I've got about 3 inches of wire, and just right here near the end, using my smallest loop, I'm making a little loop right there for both of my wires. And I'm going to take the thickest part of my pliers, put this right there at the base of that, and I'm going to wrap this wire around the opposite side of my pliers than where this little P loop is pointing towards. And I'm just going to keep going around that almost until I get there. I'm going to leave it about right there. Let's do the same thing with this one. Again, I'm just making ear wires real quick with my 22 gauge wire. I like 22 gauge because it fits my ears better than 20 gauge does. 20 gauge has a tendency to be a little bit painful because the holes in my ears are not big enough for 20 gauge wire. If I wore 20 gauge wire consistently, they would stretch and become big enough. But I don't, so I'm going to just keep using these. And then you make a little bend right there next to that loop. And then this part here, you just snip your excess wire off there. That gives you a little ear wire. And I like to work harden it by smushing the wire in my pliers. You could also use a hammer, or this is just a really tiny ear wire, which is fine. It's got a little loop. Also here at the end, you can use where are my metal files? There's one. Use a metal file and just file down any rough edges that you can feel from where the wire was cut. I like to do my work hardening first and then do my filing. Just testing with my finger. There we go. So that's one, and I'll do the other one when I make my second earring. Okay, but for this one, now I'm going to make a wrapped loop link, and to do that, I'm going to put on one bead cap, one of these olive colored beads, and another bead cap. And I'm leaving my wire on my spool because that way you don't have to estimate how long the wire needs to be. I can just go ahead and measure from there, and then however long this will be. And you'll see me do this when I do my links for my wire wrapped or my beaded chain. About 2 inches down from the end, I'm going to make a little bend, like a right angle bend, and then take my round nose pliers and put one loop over the top of that. And I like a loop that's about 1/3 of the way down from the end. And then once I'm holding my wire, I can just use my finger to push that wire up and over. When it gets to about this point, I'll open my pliers and just rotate that to get that lower jaw out of the way. Keep going around. And then once that has, crossed over and it looks like we've just put our scarf around the neck of our little guy there, you can hold on to that. You can either use a second set of pliers or your fingers, whichever you're more comfortable with, to push the wire around the neck and make your wrapped loop like that. Okay, and this is why I do it from the thing, is because then I push my beads that are going to make my link up next to that and measure about 3 fingers down from the bottom of the bead. Cut the wire, not your finger. All right, and this is going to be the opposite way. So now I'm going to want a loop that is going the other way. So when I turn this, see that one's the loop, that you can see the circle, but when I turn it over to the side, it's more of a straight line. I want to be looking at a straight line for this part. And I'm going to make another bend like I did the first one. I'm going to do it right here next to my bead, and I'm going to bend over the top of my pliers so that there's some room right here between where my loop will be and my bead for me to wrap my wire around there. And I just actually did this the opposite way. I should have been looking directly at the circle instead of the other way when I did it, but that's okay because you can always adjust your loop orientation after you're finished wrapping. So I basically just did the same thing with my loops as I did the first time around adjust my pliers, but I did leave it on here instead of grabbing these pliers first. And I just kept going until I got to my bead, tucking in my excess here. So now I'm going to adjust my loop orientation. You can see how they're like parallel to each other. I'm going to take one of these and just twist it to the side so that they make a little bit of a cross. And now my loops are going perpendicular. And the only reason that I thought of that was because of the way that the loops need to be for this, so that it's just going facing forward. And do you know what I just did? How many of you can tell me what I just did? Probably a lot of you. Give me a shout out in the comments if you noticed what I just did. I have a loop here, and I have a loop here, and I don't have any way to connect these without using a jump ring. So I'm going to need to make this link all over again. I'm going to do it a little bit quicker this time because I'm not going to explain the whole thing to you. Whoop. My wire. I should have held on to that. All right. I'm also not going to stop and make an ear wire in the middle of it either. So for this, I'm going to make a loop. And then before I wrap the second loop, which is what I should have done this first time, start with the first one. Let's get this turned around and wrapped. 1, 2, 3. All right, yes, before I get it wrapped, I'm going to make the loop, but I'm not going to wrap it. There we go. Now, before it's wrapped, I'm going to want to put my other loop for my dangle, my charm, my other bit of my earring. Now I've put that on, now I can go ahead and keep going and wrap my wire around the stem of this till I get to that bead. So yes, I forget to do that all the time. I think when I do my chain, my beaded chain necklace, I am going to make all of my links closed loops, wrapped loops, and then I'm going to connect them with jump rings so that I don't have to worry about forgetting that when I do those. All right, so that is going to be the earring that goes with that. I'll make the second one off camera because otherwise we will be here all night, and I do have some things that I need to do later. So I'm going to move these guys out of the way. And I was just going to put them up over there, but I've got my box here, and it'll save me on cleanup later if I go ahead and put these away now. I already set aside the ones for my second earring. I could do a bracelet as well, but I just want to do necklace and earrings today. So let's move these guys aside and get the other beads out. All right. These are just such a delicious green. They're such a delicious bright green. They are happy making. Absolutely love them, and I love we got these little peach crystals to go with them. We're going to add some texture to our links with these. All right, now I am going to show you how I make a bunch of links at the same time. Again, I'm going to be working from the spool, and I'm just straightening these out. I've got about 20 inches off the spool. And so I'm going to start stacking these beads on here. About 3 links at a time. Let's get these. These are going to be kind of fat links and long links, which is another good reason to use jump rings, because when you have some longer links that are kind of bigger, you don't get the same kind of flow if they're connected to each other that you would get with shorter links. You know, if they're connected directly without the jump rings as intermediaries. So this is going to work for me. Yeah, let's do 4 in a row. So for these, what we're going to end up doing is making the initial link and then moving on to the next link in a row, or the initial loop, and then moving on to the next link in a row. And then we'll turn it around, do our second loop on each of them, and then we'll trim our excess after that. Oop, don't forget your little wind turbine. That's what they're called, right? Wind turbines. So that's what they all look like, sort of on a row. I'll do one more. How about that? So that's 5 in a row. And it'll probably be 6 or 7 on each side. So yeah, let's do 6. Since I've got these right here, I may as well. It's not gonna ruin anything for me to have a few more on here, since we are just going to be doing assembly line style making. All right, out of the way. All right, and this I'm going to do exactly the same way that I did before on the other link. If you jumped to this tutorial without watching the other one though, I will go ahead and walk through this one step by step. So for this type of wrapped loop, we're going to bend it back. You can use this wire or you can use your chain nose pliers to bend it back. It's about 2 inches down from the end that you're bending it back. And then about 1/3 of the way down from the end of my barrel, going to grasp the wire and then push the end of the wire up over the top. When it gets to this point, I'm going to open my jaw, rotate the pliers, bring them around to the other side. You can either leave it on the round nose pliers and wrap it, or you can hold it with some chain nose pliers and then use a second set of pliers or your fingers to wrap around the top. Now if your loops are a little bit janky, you can give them a little squish like that to tighten them up a little bit more. Snip the end. And this is why I pre-string them. Now that I've got that loop, it's going to be really easy for me to measure how much more wire I need by pushing the beads up and then measuring 3 fingers down, cutting the wire and not my fingers, And now with this, I'm just going to set that down and make another loop and measure off that amount. And this is going to go a little bit faster because I am not going to be stopping explaining everything that I'm doing the whole way. But this is one of those things that once you get into a groove with it, it can be really meditative. I really like making links. It can be a really great way to relax, kind of let my thoughts go, just stop dwelling on the things of the day. I really enjoy a lot of times like repetitive tasks for, you know, when I've been using my brain too much at work. And so I can use my creative side of my brain instead of my technical side of my brain to come up with the ideas, but then have like the repetitive motions that can kind of get you into a Zen state a little bit better. It can be very relaxing to me until I forget to link my my wrapped loop links together, and then sometimes there's cursing. But not tonight. Not tonight, friends. It is the weekend. It is Friday night. I am making some stuff with y'all. So this is a pre-recorded, not a Friday Night Live, but I hope that you still enjoy spending some time with me anyway. And to my friends who are going to be finding me in the morning and having me with their coffee with me. I love spending time with my friends. Just making stuff, just doing things. And it's pretty great. Okay, and that's a little bit twisted because I haven't done a lot of straightening yet. There we go. That'll be a little less twisted. Or not twisted, bent. So that's 5 of them. We'll probably be doing 5 more for the other side. But for right now, let's go ahead and do our second step here. So I'm holding my link, and I'm just going to grab my chain nose pliers in the same way that I did for the other link, where I'm looking at my link, and instead of seeing a circle, I'm seeing a line. Just gripping the wire, not too hard, but I'm gripping the wire right above the top of there, and I'm just going to bend over the top so there's room for wrapping. I'm just going to do that same thing with all of these. That way I don't have to put down this tool and pick up the next tool, and then put down that tool and pick up this tool. I can just do all of these bends all at once on all 5 of these. All in a row. All right, now I can put down that and pick up this and do my loop around. And while it's still on here, push this around. Boy, that is just at a weird angle, huh? Okay. Now, because I don't want to put down this tool and pick up another tool and put down this tool and pick up another tool, I'm going to go ahead and set this down, and I'm going to worry about this excess wire after I've made my loops on all of these. And this is one of the ways that I make multiple loops at once, or multiple links at once, by doing each thing separately. Waiting until I finish one step before moving on to the next step, and doing it on each step on all of them at the same time, or close to the same time, in a series. There we go. Oh, I said 5, but there are 6 of these, because I am good at counting, my friends. I'm so good at counting. Okay, perfect. Now I can put down that tool and pick up this tool. Do all of the excess wire trimming. Hold on to the wire when you do that so it doesn't go flying. Make sure you're snipping the excess wire and not your loops, because I have done that recently. Which should also go to show that even though you may have experience and have done the same thing several times over and over and over again, sometimes you still make little mistakes, and that happens to everybody. Oops, I'm just tucking in the excess wire with my chain nose pliers and giving each of these little loops a squish. All right, now let's get our little ginkgo. And I think I want to do this with that. So I'm going to grab my wire and get my focal all set. For this, I'm going to do a little bit larger of a loop at the top of it. And I'm also not going to do like the full thing. It's going to be sort of just half of that. So it's going to start with this guy, and then it will be attached to that underneath there. So let's make a wrapped loop up here at the top. And I'm scooching down on my barrel so that I have a little bit larger of a loop than these other ones. I just want it to be a bigger loop, but not a huge loop, just a bigger one. So I didn't slide all the way down to the end. Now we're going to do a little wrap, wrap, rappity wrap. Scooch these guys up, 3 fingers down. And for this one, I want to be looking at the circle when I bend this over the top. That way my loops will be perpendicular, because I got it wrong first time. And for this smaller one, I do want a smaller loop here. Rotate that around, bring it around to the back, and before I wrap it, I'm going to attach my ginkgo leaf. Now that I've got my ginkgo leaf attached, I can wrap up to my bead. I'm just tucking in the end of that wire. All right. So that will be my focal. And then we're going to be attaching with some jump rings. So let's get some jump rings out. I think today I'm going to go ahead and use this little jump ring tool. Often I will use just another set of pliers, or even my my crimpers, just to hold the side of that, but I feel like doing it this way today. So there are little different sizes in these slots. So basically, you're going to be sticking one end of your jump ring in these little slots and then twisting it, because it'll hold it steady while you do that. And then when you twist it open like that, you can attach it to the next thing that you want to attach it to. Put that end right there in your little slot and swing that right back over. Okay. Open. Attaching the 2 links. Closing. Let it bring. So I'll be attaching this one to that side as well. But I've just got my 6 so far. So I'm just going to build out here until it is the length on one side that I want. And that will tell me how many more links I need to make. Yeah, that's good. Might be the 4 will do it. Let's going to do a fit check. No, I was right at the beginning. 5 links is going to be perfect. The perfect link. So I just need 4 more links to go with this 6th one for the other side. So 10 total. And again, I like a shorter necklace, so if you like longer ones, you can make more links than that. So I grabbed the wrong tool. Round nose pliers are not as good at opening jump rings. If you are opening jump rings and you are struggling because it's just not working right, check and make sure you grab the right tool, because it happens to me more often than I'd like to admit. That we do that. All right, so that is closed. So this is 1/2 of the necklace. It's going to be a perfect length. I'm going to get this guy started on that end, since he's already here. And then we'll make 4 more links just like that. Yeah, I love it. All right, let's make some more links. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's get on there. Did y'all see the sneak peek of the April Bargain Bead Box? It got posted today by Lauren. I know I don't want to do spoilers. I'm not going to do any spoilers, but I thought it was funny. There was a certain point when she said that now for a pop of color, and it was very pale. A very pale pastel-y color, and I was like, pop of color, that's not exactly what I had in mind for that. I don't know if I would call it that, but again, no spoilers, no spoilers. I thought it was just a funny fluke. I did not tell you what color it was. But I thought it was interesting. It was funny. I love getting a little sneak peek sometimes. I love a good sneak peek. I think it helps build hype sometimes. It also helps maybe for folks who are like, I don't know if it'll be something that I like. If they're on the fence about whether to subscribe or not. And I do have to say that out of like all of the Bargain Bead boxes that I've gotten over the years, there have only been maybe 1, maybe 2 that I've been a little bit iffy on. But the more I actually worked with the beads in it, the more I fell in love with it. So like, I've never been disappointed by a Bargain Bead Box. I find joy in creating with just about all of the themes that they come up with. But she did share a little hint about the theme, which is not a terrible theme for April. Not bad at all. Right. And one more. I took it off the thing before I wrapped it. That's okay. So I'm glad my estimation was right, but that's one of the reasons that I wait a little bit to do all of my links at once, is if I had overestimated or underestimated, then I would have to go back and make more links anyway. Or I might have made too many links and not, like, you know, I'd have to use all my links or something. I could definitely choose to leave a link or two off, but all right. Once again, going one at a time. For each step. Honestly, I think I wrap better when it's still on the... That link was doing crazy stuff. Do y'all remember a few years back there was a box that was all grays and like just monochrome, except for a few splashes of this very light green like this, and those were like the accent colors. It was a really great, like, striking box. Sometimes when I catch a glimpse of this color, like in my head, I see that box too. It's weird because they're totally different, because there's very little gray in this box, and we've got gold instead of gunmetal for metals and everything like that. It's just a single color, and it wasn't even as many beads that were the light green color. I think it was like a single bead and maybe some findings. Was it Modern Farmhouse? Was that the name of that box? I think it was. There are like little succulent plant charms in it. I don't know if you all remember those, if you were a subscriber at that point or not. That was one of those boxes that I did not ever get around to making many things with, because I hadn't actually started recording myself doing things with that yet. So, you know, this is one of my motivations to make things with the boxes, is making videos with them. Sometimes, you know, you might be like, oh, I'm not feeling it today, or you might go and do something else. But if instead I'm like, you know what, I want to make a video for my channel, spend some time putting things together, then I will do that. I think doing this, the channel, has been a great boon for my creativity, because it's motivated me to be more creative, to take a few more chances, to try new things. Okay. I'm already starting, like, my head is like making the earrings instead of doing this. So I need to stop and kind of concentrate on this a little bit more. Because, like, oh, friend, where did you go? That was unexpected. Did not expect it to just pop off like that. Okay. Just making sure that those are properly closed. Alright, now I just need my closure on here. And I'll have my ginkgo leaf necklace. And I've got this that we can use. I'm going to open up this jump ring that's connecting the toggle clasp with the ring. Remove the ring, but leave that jump ring on my toggle clasp, because one thing that I like to do with a toggle is have multiple jump rings attached to the toggle part, so that it has more flexibility, more maneuverability, more dexterity. I guess no, that's not the word. So I'm going to leave that on there, and then I'm going to use one of these jump rings to attach the ring to the end of my, actually to this end. Yes, let's do this end of my necklace. I've got my little ring, attach it here, and then close that up. And then we'll take a second jump ring, and I'm just going to go through this existing jump ring on here instead of the loop on there. I've got my 2 jump rings for a little extra maneuverability. Oop. try that again. Let me attach that here. Close that up. And now that necklace is complete. I love that. That is so great. And you know what? Doing, because these are such big, thick beads, doing it as a beaded chain gives it a chance to like not be so heavy looking, to not be so chonky. It gives it a little more grace, and I think that's perfect. Now, let's grab these ginkgo charms. They're not charms, they are connectors because they have a loop up here on this end, and they've got this loop here at the bottom. So I'm going to be using one of them as the dangle or charm at the bottom of an earring, and the other one as a connector for a link. And I'm just checking to see if I like the length of one of these links for that, or if it feels like it's going to be too much. I think this is going to be a little bit heavy on that, so I might, instead of using those big guys, I might find a smaller bead that is giving me that same, and a lighter bead, because those are heavy ones. No, it's not quite the same. It's not that sour apple color. Neither of those is that sour apple color. I think I am going to need to use these, but I think I want to, maybe I will leave these guys off and just use a couple of the crystals in a link. Yep. Yeah, let's do that. I am also going to be joining these as I go. So let me grab my wire. And put on bicone, this guy in the bicone, so they're just like that. And let's make a loop. And then instead of me wrapping it and then making the rest of this, I'm going to attach the bottom part of this ginkgo right to my loop there. Now that that's attached there, I'll wrap around this. Okay, and we're going to go up here. All right, and now I need a perpendicular loop, so I can see a little circle there. Let's bend this over the top. Make a loop like this. It goes all the way around. And I'm going to attach this one. And make sure that I'm putting it on the right way. Okay, that is facing that way. If you put it on, it's facing the wrong way, you can take it off, turn it around, and put it back on. I got lucky because the first try was the right way. A lot of times, the first try is not the right way for me. Okay, and then wrap my link. And I can take an ear wire. Let's see. I'm just going to grab this second one that I made earlier. because I'll make more in just a minute. Let me open up this loop. Just swing it open like you do a jump ring. Attach it there. This is very dangly. Very ginkgo-y. And a little bit long, but not too long. It's got some dangle. When I put these on to try them on during my weekly try on, I like to do that on Sundays. Sometimes it doesn't happen until Mondays. When it does, and I've got long dangly guys, I like to wobble my head a little bit when I put them on, so you guys will get to watch me do that. Not tomorrow, the next day. Alright, so there's project number 2 completed. Let me pull out project number 1. Once again, the second earring will be completed off camera. And that is with the Bargain Bead Box for March 2025. We are almost out of March. We're running out of March. And this is the companion bundle, and it was for the key lime pie. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you had some fun, and thank you for spending some time with me. If you would like to subscribe to the Bargain Bead Box, you've got time now until I think the 10th of the month to subscribe to Bargain Bead Box to get the April box. And otherwise, they do have extras posted on Beadbox Bargains. That is the sister site for Bargain Bead Box. That's also where I got the companion bundle. It is limited in quantity. While the original key lime pie is available with extras over there on Beadbox Bargains, the bundle itself is not available. Some of the components may be available. I did an unboxing of it. If you'd like to see what some of those components were, and go check out the site and see if they have any of those available, you can. I will put a link to my unboxing for both of those in the description below as well. Thank you for spending some time with me. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Happy beading.